Hi, welcome to another midweek message. Today is January 20th, 2021, and in the United States of America, it is Inauguration Day. It is that day every 4 years that a new person assumes the office of President of the United States along with the Vice President. Today is a day of either grave consternation for many or a day of exuberant optimism for many others, all depending upon your political perspective and your world view. But regardless of what you think of the incoming president and vice president, or the outgoing president and vice president, there are greater spiritual principles to consider than merely the political ones that dominate the news cycle in our country. Regardless of what may or may not happen in Washington, D.C., or in the Oval Office over the next 4 years, God is still in control. In Daniel chapter 2 and verse 21, Daniel reports that the God of heaven is the one who removes kings and establishes kings. Or as he goes on to say in verse 37 of the same chapter to King Nebuchadnezzar, "You, O king, are the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, the strength, and the glory." You see, it is God who, according to Daniel 4 and verse 17, the Most High, who is ruler over the realm of mankind, and who bestows it on whom he wishes, and sets over it the lowliest of men. And those words, particularly those words of Daniel 4 verse 17, are repeated 3 more times in the next couple of chapters of the book of Daniel. God is in control. As Paul wrote in Romans chapter 13 and verse 1, there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. We might not always understand exactly what's going on in the realm of civil authority, in the realm of local, state, or national government. We might not always understand exactly why God would raise up who He does when He does. But we who have a biblical worldview, who can see beyond the politics, know with absolute certainty that God is in control. Secondly, we need to remember that whoever might be president or a senator, or in other countries, an emperor or prime minister, Jesus Christ is still king. In Matthew chapter 28 and verse 18, Jesus said, just prior to His departure from earth to return to heaven, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth." And when the apostle Peter preached on the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, what is called the first gospel sermon, the first time that the crucified, resurrected, and ascended Jesus was preached, he preached and concluded in Acts 2 verse 36, "This Jesus, whom you," that is His Jewish audience, "had crucified, God has made both Lord and Christ." That is, Jesus was not merely the Messiah, though that could not be denied, but Peter also preached Him as Lord, the one who is in the position of all authority, and as Christ, the Messiah, the anointed one, the one who embodied all anointed offices of the Old Testament, prophet, priest, and king. And so, in Matthew chapter 25, Jesus said that there is a day coming when the Son of Man will return in His glory, and all the nations will be gathered before Him, and He will separate them one from another, as the shepherd divides the sheep from the goats. The the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. He goes on to describe in that context the ultimate and final judgment, when those sheep on his right will be permitted into the everlasting joys of the Lord, the presence of God for all eternity, and the goats on his left will be banished to a hell reserved for the devil and his angels. Jesus is King. He is the ultimate ruler and ultimate judge. And while we might struggle emotionally, politically, with who is ruling over us in this world, we must never lose sight of the one who rules over us in the spiritual realm. He is the one to whom we will finally give an account on the day of judgment. Third, as Christians, as those who have surrendered and submitted themselves to the leadership of Jesus Christ as King, as Lord, as Savior, Paul says in Philippians chapter 3 and verse 20, our citizenship is in heaven. I'm thrilled to be a citizen of the United States of America. Even when I might struggle with what's going on in the political realm, even when I might like or dislike the previous president or like or dislike the new president, my ultimate citizenship is not in the United States. I'm thankful for the freedoms I enjoy and the privileges that it offers. When I travel to other places in the world, as I've had the privilege to do, I'm always glad to come home. There are things about this country that I miss. But ultimately, my citizenship is in heaven. That's where my ultimate loyalty is. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." That is, whatever is most valuable to us will be the object of our greatest loyalty. What's most valuable to me, and what ought to be most valuable to every citizen of Jesus' kingdom, is the goal of being with Him, the spiritual principles that He articulates, and the work that He asks us to do. Our loyalty must be to Him. It is also heaven which is our ultimate belonging. As we sometimes sing here in this room, this world is not my home. I am just passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. My ultimate sense of belonging is in heaven, not here on this earth, not even in this particular country. My belonging is there. We are ultimately spiritual beings that inhabit physical bodies. We are spiritual beings that have a temporary physical existence. And the purpose of this life is to prepare for the life to come. We belong there. And third, our citizenship in heaven speaks to our ultimate hope. My hope is not in any political candidate or anyone who occupies public office. My hope is not in civic or governmental policy. My hope is not in what some human being is going to do for me. My hope is what Jesus has accomplished in the sacrifice for my sins and the home in heaven He has purchased for me and has gone to prepare. My citizenship is in heaven. There are winds that will blow us about if we let them. There are political tides. There are movements within countries and among friends and family members. We will encounter those with whom we disagree and sometimes vehemently disagree. But we must never lose sight of the more important spiritual principles that ought to govern our thoughts and hearts. God is in control. Jesus is still King. And for those of us who are Christians, our citizenship is in heaven. Is your citizenship there? Is heaven the object of your greatest loyalty, your sense of belonging, and your hope for life after life here on earth is over? Thanks so much for watching.